We're about to get on a plane from Vegas at the SHOT Show. That's your winding down time.
Yeah.
Like, what could possibly go wrong now?
Anytime, dude.
This guy dying behind you. How about that?
How lucky was that guy to go down at that moment at SHOT Show?
Right,
Where it's
exactly.
typically a bunch. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's all sorts of FUDs and everybody else at SHOT Show too. But there's also a lot of trained, mildly, intermediately, highly trained individuals walking around at all times.
Yes.
You know, and it's like, dude, I mean, if you're going to go down, that's a good place to go down. Welcome back, everybody, to the CF Podcast. I am Clint. We've got Kaya back with us.
What's up, guys?
And not new to the channel. He's been here before, but he does look good in a classic firearm shirt. We've got Aaron back with us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. And introducing on the podcast, we've got Jason with us today. What's up, man?
What's going on, guys?
And this right here is an emergency meeting.
What's happening?
You might be wondering, like, oh my God, yeah, there's already so much stuff happening in the world. What's happening in classic firearms where they need to call an emergency meeting? It's the fact that we're all here together at the same time.
That's right. we have some things to talk about, man.
Right? You know, and it's like, oh my God. And there is actually a lot happening in the world, and we've got a lot of different backgrounds and things like that. And we've had, like I said, Aaron, we've had you on the podcast before, and we talked a little bit about your law enforcement career and having all that type of fun. Jason, dude, your technical knowledge inside and out and seeing some of your setups is like, holy shit, man, I thought I had some cool gear. You know, so and then there's Kaya. What do you?
And then there's just me. Hi.
But no, so I mean, yeah, obviously, let's just go ahead and start talking about the hot topic, right?
Which is the McRib from McDonald's. When is it going to be?
So anyway, so I'm going to start off with some spicy stuff because I want people down in the comment section. If you saw, we just did a video about a zombie apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
Right.
If you saw zombies coming in on paragliders and invading let's say you're at a I don't want to say a music festival. That's too on the nose. You're at a gun show. All right? You're at a gun show, and zombies come in on your paraglider.
SHOT Show in Vegas.
SHOT Show in Vegas.
Just saying.
Well, no firing pins on any of those guns.
Yeah. None of the ones on the show floor.
Speak for yourself.
Right? What's going to be your go-to? And one of our last podcasts, we talked about, like, hey, what is your go-to weapon setup? And I kind of deviated a little bit from what I talked about last time. But Jason, let's start with you, man. This scenario is hitting. What are you grabbing? Comment section. Let us know what you're grabbing.
Definitely going to be something that I can reach out and touch somebody with. So I'm going 14.5 and above from there.
Okay.
I don't care about maneuvering at that point.
What about caliber?
Caliber 5.56, something that's light,
Yeah.
portable. I mean, I could say 308, that's fine, but I don't feel like being sloshed down with a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 5.56, something with a can, keep my signature down and keep it rolling. So
Yeah. Aaron?
I have to stay on the same platform. That's just, man. Lightweight, 5.56 I'm going to go with. I don't need a bunch of extras on it.
Yeah.
Something, like you said, to reach out, touch somebody. And I want a little bit of maneuverability also.
Right.
Who the hell knows? We might be in a household that we've got to take care of business.
Yeah, true.
So,
Right. What about you, Kaya?
I mean, you said paragliders, right? They're just coming down, a bunch of them.
And they might be shooting back at you.
Okay. I feel like it would be really fun to have a little minigun, sip on your
I like where your mind's at.
Just
said get the juice box.
Yeah. just start sending some love down range, right?
Yeah.
In reality, I would 100% go with 5.56. I'm a huge fan of 5.56 caliber, even though the Army's kind of going away from it because of the limitations of it.
Yeah.
I think 5.56 is here to stay. It's absolutely a very capable, good distance, and you can carry a lot of it.
Right.
So
I think
good 5.56.
backing off of what we talked about yesterday also is that if you run out of it, it's going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
It'll be
Very
5.56 rounds all over. So
Yeah.
The only thing is I have a feeling, and I don't know, you can correct me here, if you try to loot those paragliders, there may be 7.62 by 39 there.
Zombies carry 7.62 by 39.
I'm just thinking.
this is true. I've heard. That's what I've heard
I
also.
think you might be accurate about that. Yeah, I'd probably go with my 14.5 build out, 5.56 too. But I do like the idea of if you're being in a stationary, like a good hide, something like that, a good semi-auto battle rifle-esque DMR, something 7.62 would be, I think, pretty solid. I mean, you got that. We've got that M110A1 clone, that HK, that I'm like, that would be pretty fun. Some of the SIG spears we got laying around.
I think if we're going to be sitting up on at the rooftop.
Yeah, not a lot, not really mobile.
Not mobile. Bring me the 50 cal.
I knew it,
Bring
dude.
me
As
the
soon as
50
I
cal.
said we're not going mobile.
Put the coffee in one hand, like I said. Sit there. Call them out.
Yeah. I'd like for it to be the M107 with the suppressor. Have you guys had the opportunity to shoot a suppressed M107 yet?
No, not me either.
So I've had that privilege, and it's a lot different experience than what I was expecting.
Is it quiet? I don't think so.
I mean, it's still pretty loud. Like, you're going to want an ear pro, you know? I mean, obviously your signature is greatly reduced, but the recoil on it is very sideways. It wasn't like straight back. It was like for those of you watching, like it was like a.
Really?
I'm just thinking it would be less recoil with the brake on it than with suppressor. I think.
Yeah. Actually, the brake is easier to shoot, I think.
Because the gas is pushing everything out one side?
Yeah. And then depending on how you were propped up, you know, I probably didn't have the proper shooting stance because I didn't have my body completely behind it. That was before Josh told me to fix myself. You know,
stance matters.
Yeah, stance matters. So I was probably a little offset, which means if I was, you know, let's say if I was bladed a little bit left foot forward, then it makes sense that I've got less mass on my right side, and that's why it would shift to the right?
That makes sense.
So in this case, if I actually had my body squared and I was standing in that standing position and, you know, bent at the hips, things like that, it probably would have been more straight back.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was just due to my shitty stance that probably the suppression was, that recoil was not mismanaged.
I like that 50 thing. It just sounds like, imagine Aaron just sitting on a rooftop somewhere, smoking a cigar, and with 50, just.
And I have my Mozart playing. I can feel it now.
Oh,
Mozart playing in the background.
There we go.
Got one of you guys calling them out.
Yeah. You know what? Let's just go and let's make it nighttime too, because why not? You know, why not? Throw a peck on there. Yeah, tracers. You know, we got night vision. Let's laze them. You know,
I like that. Yeah.
There we go. Now we're talking. You know, I think that would be pretty fun. So that's just in case you ever saw zombies coming in on paragliders. Weird thing. Why would we bring that up? Speaking of which, by the way, I bet the Israelis wish they had a Second Amendment.
Oh my God! Absolutely,
they're starting to try to push that way now.
Yeah.
So
everybody's hitting the gun range. They're loosening up their rules and regulations.
Which I didn't realize this. I always thought Israel, because everybody has to have a mandated military service, right? So I always thought that they were kind of loose on their gun laws.
Turkey as well mandated, and it is so restrictive.
It's
the
wild.
government. Those governments. I mean, this applies to Turkey. This applies to Israel. They just want those guns because they know. Guns means freedom to people, less freedom to government. So they just want it all for themselves. This includes Israel. Clearly we saw.
Yeah, it really did surprise me because, I mean, there's so many memes and stuff like that where you'd see like just women walking around in Israel with an AR on their back and one of those magazine plugs or whatever, you know, and it's like, oh, wow, okay, all right, they're pretty solid. Nobody's going to attack them. And then you find out, oh, you're limited to a pistol and 50 rounds.
Right.
And you're like, wait a minute, this isn't the memes that I was looking for, you know. Right. So when all this took place, we talked about this on a couple of our live streams, Kaya, you and I, Monday, Wednesday nights, and you know something that we've come to find out is I truly believe that the Ukrainians wish they had a Second Amendment, the Israelis wish they had a Second Amendment, and that a majority of the world is starting to actually see the value in the Second Amendment.
Anybody who's listening right now and who isn't, most likely they're Second Amendment people, because CFcontest.com, CF podcasts. But anybody who isn't, like right now listening, I promise you, you will be a Second Amendment person if we do get into any kind of a crap that Israel is getting into, Ukraine is getting into. You will be, because those forces aren't going to come to you when you need them. Right. You know, it's that neighbor. Just imagine a zombie apocalypse right now. Zombies are coming at you, and you don't have any guns, and your neighbor comes up with an AR-15 or whatever, right? Your neighbor suddenly is your favorite person in the world. 100%. Is it not true?
Right.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a devastating thing to think about too, because at this point, should we talk about the southern border and the issues happening there? Because
might as well.
Because we're taking right now, and we're having. I know it's a tragedy that's taking place over there, but we're kind of having fun with the idea about the zombies, paragliders, stuff like that. But at the end of it all, it's not going to come in probably the waves of paragliders, but I'm thinking we've already got infiltration on a huge level here in this country. I mean, I'd like to get y'all.
Media is saying. I mean, they're saying they're here already. They've been pushing it.
Yeah.
And I mean, they've had that border wide open for how long now?
Right.
And they're not coming in the variations that we think they're all going to be looking like one sort of individual. It's going to be a bunch of different variations you're working with, and they're all fighting age males coming through. I mean, just look at the statistics that are coming through there.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, think about this. They've been saying, oh, the border's not open. right? A lot of people, I don't know, some people are actually saying this, even though the border agents are reporting, or sheriffs down there, like Sheriff Mark Lamb, who's fighting a big fight down there. It's more than ever. Elon Musk just went down there and did a live reporting. Hundreds of millions of people watched it. But FBI just recently, like I'm talking about in the last 2 or 3 days ago, did an announcement that some Hamas-linked terrorists or people are entering to the United States right now
They
through
confirmed
the southern
it.
border.
100% confirmed. Yep.
I mean, when I said on my live stream just last Wednesday, I said, guys, everybody's thinking about this military type invasion in our country.
No.
It is not. That's not how it works nowadays. Okay, there's cyber invasion. Obviously, we all know about that.
Yep.
But dude, we have millions of people pouring into this country, and we don't know who they are.
Right.
Look at New York, right? And those people are. I mean, right now, look. There's Hamas. I'm not talking about pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas protests on the streets of this country right now.
It's going on as we speak.
So
Yeah.
who's to say that they can't be radicalized and more radicalized and just start blowing places up?
Yeah.
So we're getting less safe in this country because of that stupid southern border that's open. I see it more and more.
And you know, Vivek, he actually showed the compromise that we have at the northern border.
He did. He
was
showed
like
that.
he was like in Vermont or New Hampshire, and literally was like, "Let me just walk into Canada real quick."
Yeah, you can just walk across.
And it was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So we're all concerned about the southern border because that's where the publicity is and that's where a lot of the action's taking place. But the northern border, and we see our, I'm sorry, our Canadian neighbors,
Right.
but we see the direction that they're moving too.
But do you know why that's less important? It's important.
Sure.
Less important than the southern border because theoretically it is harder to get into Canada, right? If you want to get a visa or whatever to Canada, it's just much harder for you to get it to Canada and then jump that border. Can you? Of course, and they still do. But Mexico, bro.
I mean,
I don't think Mexico cares. You can go to Mexico from any country in the world.
Right. They're coming in from South America. And I mean, there was that huge caravan like 2 years ago or something.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, again, I don't even know what's being fed to us, what's true, what's not, and all this type of stuff
You
at
got
this
a
point.
couple of factors. I'm not going to get too much into it because I don't have full knowledge of it. But you've got the cartel out there that's working with this whole system, and they're pushing. They own Mexico.
Yeah.
They run that area, and even the Texas border. I'm sorry, I've been in El Paso when they had that whole big, caravan of people that were supposed to be busting through, and you could see Juarez from there. That's not a pretty place to be looking at.
Yeah.
When you got those
Gunshots
people
at
sitting
night.
there. Oh, it's bad. It's bad out there.
During
On
the
my
day.
social media, Turks are writing, like literally, my background is Turkish, anybody who's listening doesn't know, they are typing me, like they just entered into the U.S. from the southern border, how can they find a job? I don't respond to any of those people, but it's a big thing. There's human traffickers, even in Turkey, like, hey, give me $5,000, I'll get you over there, and then you'll just jump. This is literally, actually, in fact, there's more increasing Turkish folks entering through the southern border in the United States now than ever before due to economical difficulties that's happening over there.
Yeah.
Like, I know this as an influencer over there. They literally type me all the time that they want to leave, and they're jumping the border from the southern border. So it's a thing. So
It's crazy.
besides the media's bullshit, it really is a thing because I see Turks are just typing me all the time about it.
Yeah. It's
Man.
wild, man. Wild times.
So this is why I preach all the time. You guys got to stay vigilant, stay prepped, be observant, and carry a gun, right?
Stay ready.
So, we've talked all about our EDCs before, Kaya, you and me. I've got the SIG P365, Streamlight TLR7A, and the Holostone 5 HS507 KX2. That is a mouthful. Good God. But anyway, and that's like my everyday carry. You know, I usually keep that on me. And believe it or not, the Canik Mate MC9 usually stays pretty close by too. 2 is 1. You know what I'm saying?
Good guys.
More bullets.
Right, exactly. And so with that, though, what's your everyday carry still?
It's just still the Hellcat Pro.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I run. Just TLR7 light, and I got a little Swamp Fox on there, which I'm going to change that to something else. But that's what I have. Gets the job done. Great gun. I've had no issues and feels pretty good. And I do appendix carry. I used to carry it in the little offset towards my back.
Yeah.
I recently changed that. There's pros and cons to everything, obviously, but that's
There
what
definitely
I have.
is. Yeah, I'm rocking Alpha Mega Kydex holsters, also code Magnum. If you know,
Nice plug right
you
there.
like that? That's what I'm rocking. Still, with the sidecar type of mount. I forget the exact name of the holster and everything, but I like it a lot. You know, they make good stuff, and they've supported the channel and everything, which is really cool.
Those guys are really good. I want their holsters. I had one, but I want another one.
All right, I'll tell Eric you say hi.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
But Aaron, what about you, man?
I'm on the same page with Kai, man.
Yeah.
Hellcat Pro. and then also with the appendix carry.
Yeah.
That's the way I go with it. And like you said, there's pros and cons to it, but I feel most comfortable doing the appendix carry.
You know, I know that a lot of people say you're breaking rule number one, or you know, well, one of the rules, right? About
Pointing at yourself.
Yeah, you know, pointing at your right, whatever, and and it's like you know, I see where you're coming from, but if you're not an idiot and you know how to apply the other rules,
Right.
you should be pretty good because there's a
As long as you don't
sequence.
have SIG.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Wow, there it is. There it is. I also have a SIG.
There's a series of events that has to take place in order for something bad to happen,
Right.
you know, and it's like as long as one thing doesn't line up, you should be pretty good, right? Jason, what about you, man?
Glock 17, man. Even though I hate
Glock 17,
17.
full size.
full size. As a matter of fact, if it's wintertime, I'll carry a 34 because it's the same. The only reason why I say that is, for me, optic. If
Yeah.
it gets sights, it gets lights. I rock an X300, so you know the added length there is not going to do anything. So, yeah. If it's like I said, if it's bold winter, we're talking like December, January. I'll pull the 34 out and rock it. Doesn't
Dude,
you know,
I like that theory that you live by. That if it's got sights, it gets a light, you know. And I'm like, you know, that checks out.
I got questions.
Well, listen, man. Most bad shit tends to
I
happen.
love
at
the
night,
17 idea. Like anybody who's not watching that, they're just listening for some reason, in any platform, whatever platform we're on. Jason is a big guy, right? He's a tall, big guy. So of course 17 makes sense because your body composition
type.
makes a bit difference, right? But why 34? Because 17 is a very capable gun.
So for me, sight radius. If I ever have to pull out my gun for anything, I just want to give myself, you know, a non-fair fight for someone else.
You want to have that unfair advantage,
Right.
which makes absolute sense. You know, everybody thinks they might be the good guy, but every good guy needs to strive to have that unfair advantage in any type of situation. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I see totally where you're coming from. You've got the capacity, you've got the ease of use. I mean, if nobody's ever shot a Glock 34 before, 10 out of 10 would recommend because that is just a smooth shooting pistol.
Correct.
And what Jason's hitting on here, as far as the sight radius goes, that really helps with accuracy because a longer sight radius just help. Can you break that down about why a longer sight radius helps?
So you're trying to traditionally, right? Trying to dial up 2 points to make sure it equals out. But once you elongate that a little bit more, it allows you to track your sights, obviously, when you're firing under recoil. So instead of it, just shooting out and being so quick, I mean, I do love subcompacts. I love the small guns. If I'm ever wearing something more form-fitting, I'll go to that if I'm in a suit or whatnot. But if it's just during the day, I'm taking the biggest, largest gun capable in my hands. So
Yeah,
That's a good thought process.
the sight radius, exactly. Like, it's actually a good point because when you line them up, you're definitely able to track that front sight a lot better. But also that any inconsistency between the front and rear sight is so much more apparent than if they're close.
very forgiving.
Very forgiving.
Very forgiving.
And I also like finer sights too. I'm not a huge fan of like those just big circle white sights or anything
Love
like that.
them.
You know, I love much finer sights.
I love big
personally.
sights.
I've got an astigmatism, so all of that under, it's just going to be a blur. Especially, let's think about it. You're in the shit.
Yeah.
It's go time now.
Yeah.
Your sight goes from here to
oh,
tunnel
yeah.
vision, and then when your adrenaline goes up, it's going even smaller than that. So, small margin of error. I want to make sure that I keep it simple, stupid, and just keep it running like that. So
Right, and in a lot of situations too, I mean, most defensive use of a concealed carry firearm is happening between pretty much the distance that we're at right
here
now.
at the table.
I'm not using my sights.
No.
At the end of the day,
Point shoot all day.
Point shoot. and-
$500 dot we have on. We don't even get to look at it.
I just saw a flash of red.
exactly.
That's just for the range, so you look good.
Yeah, that's just to make sure that if you ever needed to get that aim down, you could. If you ever needed to go full, Eli Dickens, you got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he had a broken iron sight. So I mean, whatever. What choice is yours?
Some people are that good. Some people aren't.
But I think the lesson here is not only owning it's not enough.
Right.
You gotta carry it. You got to carry it and you got to train with it. I don't know if you guys are like me, but typically before I leave the house, I got my concealed carry on, stuff like that. I do just a couple of dry runs just to make sure I ain't got no clothing that's snagging. Make sure my red dot's actually on.
Right.
Makes sense.
Not that I'd actually be using it, as we've already discussed. But it's like, dude, it's to make sure that you've got everything. All right, cool. You got spare mag, you got keys, you got wallet, you got pocket knife, you got your phone, got gun, clear, chambered, press check, all that type of fun stuff. Cool. A couple of dry runs. All right, yep, nothing's getting snagged. Walk out the house.
Right.
You know, and I think that's something that a lot of people need to practice on. And I'm also a big fan of trying to get those reps in at the range when you can. Those standoff reps that we did with Sarah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
they're so important. A lot of people get guns. Like I see this, especially on my end of the audience too. Like people just get guns and they don't train. Here in the U.S., we see it all the time. You know, everybody have guns here, but nobody. A lot of people don't train. They just go to an indoor range, which I understand. Some people have very limited abilities, I guess, or places to go.
Right.
They go to an indoor range and they just put it at 25 yards or 20 yards or 15 yards, whatever, shoot some 50 rounds and call that a training.
It's not only just that. It's that the ranges truly don't want people to draw out of a holster.
Nothing.
Yeah. And when
Because
you
it's
go
liability.
Yeah,
Oh,
liability.
well,
shoot
when you
themselves.
go to an indoor range, you see why some of these RSOs and ranges have all these safety
Yes.
implementations.
Right.
Because, guys, I say it all the time. You know, well, how else are you supposed to get good unless you train? And then you try to tell, then you criticize us for what we do at an indoor range, and that's because the shit that you're doing is literally putting other people at risk.
Correct.
You know, and you're not doing these dry fire reps, which would be a lot less dangerous.
Right.
You know, and you're doing that literally in a mirror, so that way you can watch what you're doing. Like, oh, you know what? Hey, I messed up here, and this time and time and time again, dry fire and those dry reps help. And then all of a sudden, you see some of the crazy shady shit that takes place at a freaking local range or something, and you're like, I see why the RSOs are like, you're not shooting more than one round every 2 seconds, and
Well,
like,
I'll take it even further than that.
Yeah.
With the training of just regular civilians every day, people just think they're going to have guns on them. They're going to be able to pull it out, do what it has to do at the right time.
Yeah.
Let's say you're a mother with 2 kids and you have a stroller in front of you and
Yeah.
your gun's in your bag. When was the last time you trained to go grab that bag, get that
Yeah.
gun out, and God forbid that bad guy's on the other side of the stroller?
Yeah.
Are you good with flagging your kids while you're doing that?
Right.
While
Or handling a
sidestepping,
child.
While handling a child who's screaming, getting
Yeah.
mad.
Yeah.
Are you going to engage? Are you not going to engage? Are you going to run, get it? Like, people don't think of these factors beforehand. And these are the things, when it comes to training, these are part of your training take.
that's
And
right.
I'll be honest with you, very good point right there. You're a big guy, Aaron. Somebody is probably a robber, let's just say, right? If you're walking by yourself,
Right.
if I was a robber, I'm probably not going to pick on you.
I'm dodging you, man.
I'm done. However,
Hold on. Are you guys stereotyping me?
Yeah, you are swole as shit,
What do you
dude.
mean, you people?
but
Just do me a favor. Skip the gym one day for me.
Done.
But here's what I'm going to say. If you are, because I as a predator, right? If I'm this robber
I
or
knew
whatever,
it.
right? Predator, I would want advantages for me,
Right.
right? That subconscious reptile brain thing. If you are walking by yourself, I'm probably going to stay away from you because you're big, you look capable. But if you have your little kid, stroller, and wife, I find you vulnerable, bro. I'm probably going to come
100%.
after you. Does that make
There's
sense?
Soft threats, 100%.
There's an interview of a predator,
Yep.
a pedophile
I've seen it. I know who he looks for.
He finds his victim based off of the dad. If there isn't a dad present, that's an easier target. If the dad is present but he looks weak, he looks like he doesn't take into consideration any type of situational awareness. Let's just say he's down on his phone, he's got his beer gut and everything else, you know, and that right there is an easy target. But if he sees a child with a dad that looks like he's observant, and that right there is usually like, okay, well, that guy's paying attention. I'm not. That's too difficult of a target. I want a kid that's at a playground or whatever else that's just okay, and he'll sit back and just watch.
Right. It's not going to be a fight.
No,
They don't want to fight.
And so it's like, look, man, if you want to protect your family, the easiest thing you can do, right, is eat a salad, carry a gun, and just be observant.
Get on a treadmill like the rest of us, right? Physical, like besides all firearms training and all these situational factors and whatever, what about physical training?
It's
a-
God,
Like
yeah.
heart rate. Like we talk about 170, 180, 190, but there are two differences. Like when you do physical training, if you get out there and right now do some jumping jacks and push-ups and then shoot, great. And that's,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
And I
SWAT,
love
you know,
that
that's
shit.
how people do. But that is a little bit different still because if you work out really, really heavy right now, your face is going to get red. Your hands, your face is going to get red because you're really, really tired. Blood is everywhere. But if you're in a shit, your face is white. The entire blood goes to your core. You lose fine motor skills. So it's a different type of
Stress.
stress.
Yeah.
Your body goes into fight or flight mode. And
Right.
it's starting
Exactly.
to save you. It's telling you, shut this down. I need this. I need that. And even like when we spoke on the last podcast, your body does weird things. Like I told you, my second shooting, my ears completely shut down.
Yeah.
Auditory.
It was almost like I had Ear Pro on. And when I came back on, it was like nothing happened. I was cranking rounds out of my rifle.
Yeah.
And it was like nothing was affecting my ears. Based off my first shooting, where my ears I lost hearing for days in my ears, you know.
One of the officers I worked with I wasn't on duty during this time as a dispatcher and call taker and all that, but he was in a shooting and inside of a house, you know, some sort of domestic taking place. And he said he'll never forget this. He couldn't hear or see his own shots.
Right.
He knew he was pulling the trigger. You know, but he had no idea that the gun was even going off. But he could hone in on the muzzle flash of the other guy, and he said he could smell him.
Yep.
Wow.
And he's like, but he couldn't
auditory
hear.
exclusion.
Yeah,
that's real thing.
and you know and that's why I've talked before. And some people say, you know, like, hey, do you train with or without ear pro to get used to that? I'm like, nah, train with ear pro. You know, this last thing that we did with Surefire with the RC3, I went quite a bit without ear pro because.
It's cool.
I didn't. I mean, the RC3 was quiet. It did a really good job. But then we started shooting a little close quarters, and the sound was bouncing. I was like, all right, I'm putting ear pro on, right? But I always say, yeah, shoot with ear pro. But I mean, that's honestly a good thing, especially if you go non-electronic. Go with the standard stuff, so that way it blocks out yet another sense, right?
Yeah.
And so just a little. I mean, because in real life, that auditory exclusion does take place. You know?
right.
And
if you've never ever heard a gunshot without ear pro, this applies to anybody, I'd recommend 1 or 2 shots so you know what that sounds like. It's a really high crack.
Yeah.
You know, it's not muffled. Just maybe 1 or 2 just so you know, because you don't want to damage your ears. But other than that, 100% train with ear pro, bro.
yeah, I mean, 1 or 2, that's going to damage your ears. I mean,
Especially indoors.
Oh God, if it's
Don't do
indoors,
I've done them both.
Yeah, well, dude,
Many
I've done
times.
it before because you just get so complacent, and you just forget. You know, like you just pick up a gun and you're like pop, and like, well, let me put those back on.
I did it with the MRAD. Me and Ryan were shooting the
MRAD?
MRAD. Like, yeah, I was like running with the gun, and the entire time my ear pros were over my head, and I just lie down and just fired 1 round. Everything's going great.
Yeah.
And I stopped and I looked at Ryan. He's like, "What happened?"
I can't hear anything.
I didn't have my ears. And it was just ringing so bad.
Doing the Archer mop.
What? What was that? What was that movie? He's like, the guy's like, "What?"
Oh, you talking about Black Hawk Down?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I mean, we're filming this, you know, late October. That anniversary, 30th anniversary, right?
Yeah.
October 4th, October 3rd and 4th, I think it was. I mean, that was just a couple weeks ago, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And there's some lessons to be learned there too. But anyway, so yeah, getting out there and training definitely would recommend. I think at some point throughout shooting in your life, you'll probably hear a gunshot. Probably by your own stupidity, without ear pro. Don't know if I'd recommend it, you know, just all the time, or not all the time, but just doing it voluntarily. But I think Kaya's got a good point too. Like, hey, at least you'll know what to expect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
It's a self-correcting mistake.
It is.
I promise you only do it once.
Right.
You'll do it, yeah. I was at the line indoor at a police training. Like, there was like 15 cadets.
Yeah.
And I didn't have mine on. And when they say fire,
Everybody's
it's just not
excited
one
and ready to
gun.
go.
It's like 15 guns going at once. I was like, holy crap, did I just die? What happened to me?
Right.
It was just so bad.
It's true
Yeah,
story.
anyways.
Oh man. So,
what's your training like on CCW? I know a lot of people are interested in, like, Aaron, I'm asking you. How do you train on your CCW?
You're talking about dry fire and just simple?
Any type of, like, how do you get ready?
Similar to what Clint said. I mean, when I do put my appendix on, get a couple of draws, make sure it's not, snagging on anything, know where my mag is. If I've got it, depending on what pants I have, if I have shorts, it all depends on what I'm wearing also. Like you said, if it's colder weather or something like that, I'm going to have things in different places.
Right.
So do a couple draws, know where it's at, because what are you going to do? You're going to go right back to where you normally know it is. Yeah. And God forbid I have it in my right pocket that day, and I go to draw, and I'm like, oh shit, I guess I missed it.
That's right.
You know?
Right.
So that's the basics of it when it comes down to it. Just making sure there's a round in the chamber, because who knows, I might have cleaned it the day before and then I forgot to load it, whatever it may be. Just go through the steps, have some sort of process that you go through in reference to what I have. So that's the way I do it, because I've had it before where I don't follow my process, and I'll walk out the house without my gun, because you have a million things on your mind. You got kids, whatever's happening. Right. You get down the road, you're like, oh shoot, you just did your whole check through your head, and you're like, oh, forgot my gun, got to go back and go get it. And it happens all the time. Nobody here is perfect. I'm not saying I'm some sort of huge tactician in what I do, but everybody, I would say, have a process, run down your list of what it is. Your knife's here, mags there, guns here. We're good to go. You know?
Right.
And then I forgot my wallet and my keys, but at least I have my gun.
It's not your kid.
Yeah, exactly. Got the kid too. I got my gun.
And now, Jason, I can only imagine. I mean, with the Glock 17, Glock 34, you're doing a couple of reps. Make sure
I'm doing a couple of reps.
Yeah.
Make sure everything's good and feels good.
Yep.
I go to redundancy roll. I have, like I said, I carry appendix as well. I use a T-Rex arms holster because it
Works
just
for you.
works.
Yeah.
It works. I carry a +2 base pad on the backup.
Okay.
And then also in my vehicle, I've got 2 mags, one in the armrest and one on my lovely little gray man solution thing in the back, just in case if I gotta go. But also doing those reps, I also make sure I turn all the lights off in the house and just see where my dot is.
Oh, nice.
Just to check. I turn on the Surefire, see where it's at, make sure my power's good on my batteries.
That's
See if my dot's comparable to daytime and or night, so I don't have to make that. Oh, hold on, Mr.
Adjustment,
Bad Guy,
yeah.
let me adjust my
Can't see,
dot
it's a little
there.
bright out.
Yeah, that's not gonna work. So yeah, that's just my process. And then, like I said, press check, make sure it's good, give it a little love tap in the back to make sure it's fully seated, because we've all seen what happens to a gun when it's not fully seated.
Dead man's gun.
There you go.
Dude,
Becomes
so-
a paperweight.
Right.
Basically.
Round in the chamber or no? Go.
Oh, come on, bro.
absolutely.
What?
Listen,
100%.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'd hope nobody says a different answer at this table.
Oh, there is
Right.
plenty
Like
of
what?
people out there doing that. Like, hey, Israeli folks, like Israeli military, except it's a special forces there.
Yeah,
the
they
military, the police, they carry around not
Not in the chamber,
Yeah.
but they also. I'll attend to this. They do practice a lot with their whole draw process.
I will
And
literally
it is crazy. It's crazy to see, but is it effective?
Dude,
it works for them.
Listen,
Eh.
the reason I bring that up because Turkish police and military folks do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I have told the entire Turkish police force, like all of it, I said, if you're going to carry a gun with no round in the chamber, don't carry a gun.
Yeah.
They're like, well, it's better than nothing. I'm like, no. I'm like that radical about it. Now, because how many videos or incidents that I can show you that you don't have time to rack the gun?
Right.
Unless, I don't care how amazingly fast you're, because they're like this. They literally just grab it and like it's already ready.
Yeah.
But they still got to use one hand. And then when I challenge them, if this hand is loaded, busy with something, occupied with something, they're like, they will use a table or their boot or their belt.
Clothing.
I'm like, dude, that's how you induce a
And that's
malfunction.
it's a malfunction. Then other scenarios where, like, say you are in a fight of your life. Like there was a video the other day. A cop was in a fight of his life on the back of the truck, and he was able to press
that's
check
right.
that guy in his ribs.
Yep.
Let's say he had to rack that gun. He's not racking that
done.
gun.
Yeah.
He's done.
He was getting choked out. Other hand was tied up with the guy, and all he would be able to do is grab your gun out of there. So I mean, I don't agree with it, but there's a million ways to skin a cat. If you're comfortable with doing what you're doing,
That's what they're doing.
I mean, by all means. Me personally, no, I would say carry one in the chamber. Get ready to go.
100%.
Yeah, totally agree
Good.
with
I'm
that.
glad. I'm
So
glad we're all on the
unequivocally,
same
we all
page.
say,
Yeah.
Oh
yes.
yeah, that's unanimous over here.
Unanimous, yeah.
That's for sure.
100%.
If you're not carrying around in the chamber, then I'll see you in your obituary. Anyway,
There we go.
so there's that. Now then there's the ammunition preference, right?
Good point.
You know, because I mean, look, everybody's got 115 laying around, but is that the standard? You know what I mean? Like, is that a great defensive round? 115.
I mean,
So
we had this talk the other day.
We did.
We like got into it, and I mean, I've got my own personal things, but
if it's dipped in a green paint, I think it's good for me.
Makes sense.
Zombie kill.
this guy.
Going through heads, walls, all the above. Why not?
Yeah.
every soft surface possible.
Yeah. So Jason, then tell us on what is your preferred defensive ammunition?
So my preferred defensive ammunition is federal HSTs.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
124
Yeah.
plus P. Reason why is it has enough oomph to do what you need it to do, but it's also going to get captured in soft tissues.
Right.
And, you know, we could elaborate more on that, but use your imagination. I base off everything that I use if it's going to, first of all, I'm just going to use you for instance. It's going to go in, it's going to do its job, and it's just going to stay. We have all seen videos of like that.
Over-penetration.
Right.
Yeah.
Over penetration, it sails through, but we've also seen stuff where these guys take these rounds. I think there was a cop in Pennsylvania where the guy was wearing a leather jacket, and he put, 7 rounds of 45 into the guy, and the guy still kept on coming. So if I have enough time to, you know, time equals distance equals time in between and all that jazz, and if I have enough time to react, I'm obviously going to go for what's easy and what's going to shut down the body. If I would love to sit here and say, oh yeah, I'm a crack shot, I'm just going to hit somebody in the tee box. That's not going to happen.
Not realistic.
Like what?
Good luck.
No, good luck. Right? So I just want to make sure I give myself, like I said, the best fighting chance to either make it hurt, make the person stop, or at least put the threat down. So that's just me. Nothing that burns too hot.
I agree. The plus P, I agree with that. And then, like you stated before, I mean, people these days, like I've told you guys a story. I shot that guy 12 times.
Yeah.
And the guy sat up and looked at me. You know,
that's all you got.
Literally, that's all I had at that time. I had to reload. It's literally all I had. But yeah, I agree with you on that. You don't want anything over penetrating because, again, we agreed our fight's going to be here. And where's it going to be? It's going to probably be in a room full of people, whatever it may be. You don't want that round to over penetrate, hit little Susie that's standing in whatever shoe store, which unfortunately that's happened before. I mean, cops coming in with their rifles, and I mean, you could hit your target, but you could also hit something else that's behind that target.
Facts.
Right. There's that fifth rule.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I agree with you with that, and you want something that's going to stay in. You know, I don't want it coming out. Keep it in there. That's for you. It's for nobody else.
Yeah.
Have this, sir.
Right.
That was my party favor for you.
No, I totally agree that you want a round that will stay in, and for reasons obviously over penetration. So because you're responsible for those rounds, but at the same time, for terminal ballistics effectiveness sake, if that round stays in you, that kinetic energy is delivered to that body. Correct. So therefore, it's going to be a faster incapacitation. Yeah. So there's that. And with that being said, I personally like federal HST is amazing, right? I like the Hornady critical duty. And the reason I like that is because in the FBI spent millions of dollars on researching that, and that's what they use. The Bureau doesn't use, whether you like the Bureau or not, guys, that's politics are different on the other side. Bureau doesn't use anything that they don't do a crap ton of scientific research. Right. And that 9mm Hornady critical defense, it was G2. That's still very relevant, but most recently switched to Hornady critical defense, critical duty defense, the same thing. I like that one. You know, that has, after going through intermediate barrier, it still has 12 to 18 inches penetration to incapacitate. The most effective 9mm round, in my opinion, is that round right now. So that's what I run.
What was the optimal barrel length that the FBI found for like the 5.56 round? 64 grain, right?
Yeah,
like
so they went.
Grain,
so the Bureau runs 11.5 inch barrels. That we had those Colt M4s, you know, and it was 62 grain federal.
Oh, it's 62.
It was initially it was 62. When I was there, it was 62. But after I left, which like a year ago or something, they switched to 64, and 62 grain soft like the lead tip. I've
soft
seen
point, whatever.
Soft point, exactly. I've seen what that does to the human body. When I was a CSI with the state police, I have Cook County, Chicago. Okay, we've seen.
You get to see some
seriously,
you've seen some shit.
So
he knows a thing or two because he's seen a thing or two.
Oh, dude, trust me. I once moved this guy after he was shot. I don't know how many times by a SWAT team. I moved him. Literally, they like mushroomed out like perfectly, and they were just falling off of his body. It was amazing. He's incredible, right? Yeah, but that guy killed 6 people, so he had to come.
Oh no! Yeah.
So
that man.
He had to go.
So they So they most recently Ballistic Research Facility (BRF) did some studies, I guess, on this, and they switched to 64 grain because I don't remember the exact details, but it just had a better terminal ballistic terminal effect on target at distances that they are, you know, up to 400 and 500 yards.
It's amazing that a 2 grain difference. Was there a difference in projectile? Did they switch from soft point to something else?
No, same everything.
But just added 2 more grain.
2 more grain. So you know how it twists? You get that 1 to 7, right?
Yeah.
That twist, I guess they just had a little bit better performance with that twist ratio, just adding a couple more grains. They got the money. They got the Ballistic Research Facility.
We have the research. We have the money.
Right.
We can do it.
That's pretty. That's pretty wild. Now you guys are talking about some things too that I think some people aren't really considering, and that is you're talking about the effect that this stuff has on the human body, and something that I think a lot of these music festival goers in Israel didn't realize too was, hey, it'd have been really cool to fight back, but what about taking care of the people that are already injured?
Facts.
First aid is something that I think is slept on hardcore because I've seen more gore on the street because of vehicles than gunshots. Now, granted, I was never in a first responder role like that or anything. I took the call. I wasn't at the call. You know what I mean? You guys on, you, Aaron and Kaya, y'all were the responder, right? In that case. So you witnessed some of the trauma. Yeah. What I've seen just is, I drive a lot, right? And so I've seen a lot of vehicle accidents. I've been in accidents of my own. Thankfully, none of them, were personal injury or anything like that. But I mean, hell, dude, I was just driving down the street in a small town, and one dude on an electric scooter got mowed down. And I saw bone, I saw blood, and I saw a leg that looked like it was in a position it shouldn't have been in.
Right.
And I pulled over. I've got my trauma pack. I've got two tourniquets in that trauma pack, another 2 in the back of the 4Runner. And dude, I freaking pulled over real quick, and some woman's yelling at me, "We got it covered. We got it covered." And I'm like, no, you don't. Yeah. That dude's bleeding out right now. Right. I'm seeing him, and like he's shaking. He's doing this number. Like, we're on the phone with him. We don't need any more people over here. I'm like, he's dying.
Yeah, at that point, you got to jump in.
Yeah,
move to the side, make your phone call. Yeah, let me take care of it.
And I said, look, I'm a U.S. Marine. I got a trauma back, and then some other guy came running over, and I was like, you know what, man? And this is the sad reality of the society we're living in. I'm like, let's say I just rolled up on the scene. I don't have full view of what's going on. Maybe she knows something I don't, and I had to take a quick second right there, and I said, I'm not going to get involved. Yeah. Because what am I missing? Maybe this dude was trying to rob somebody and they ran him over to get away from him. Right. I don't know. Right? All I saw was a scooter, man down. And I'm like, I can probably help this guy. And again, I saw other people standing over there. So I'm like, all right, I don't know the full story. And is it worth a lawsuit?
That's true too.
Because if I get involved, think like that. Let's say if I get involved and I apply the tourniquet to how I know to apply a tourniquet, right? Let's say I do this. The family come back and said, you killed him. Yep. You killed him because you didn't do this right or whatever else. Right. We're going to sue you for what we think his life is worth. Right. And that is unfortunately the way a lot of people have to think now. Yeah. Because this is the society we live in.
Yeah, it's a damn shame.
Good Samaritan, man. The Good Samaritan laws should protect you, but
should.
Yeah. I mean, from what you're saying, you should. All my vehicles, I have an IFAC. I got an IFAC in my bag. Yeah, you should have something with the kids' bags. Got something simple on there. And then whoever his significant other is, whoever you're with, you should teach them the basics, man.
Oh, yeah.
How to put a tourniquet on, like with my daughter. Here's how to put a tourniquet on, especially the fact because all these damn school shootings and all the stuff that's going on. Know the basics. Because a lot of people think that the fight's the big thing. I mean, you could save a lot more lives by simple things. Know how to put pressure on this, stop this, know how to put this person here, put that person in that place. You hold this, you hold that. And you save somebody's life because of that.
How to pack and plug holes is a lot. Is something that I think a lot of people sleep on, and on top of that, basic stuff too, man. You know how many people probably don't know how to perform the Heimlich maneuver?
Oh yeah,
facts.
Or to actually provide like proper CPR.
Yeah. Well, they even count 30 to 2. People don't know 30 to 2. It's a simple number.
And it's like y'all just. Like sit back. I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. Like running drills at the range, all this. That's the sexy stuff. Like, that's cool. That's fun. But knowing actual first aid is something that I think a lot of people need to pay attention to because again, it's somebody stroking out that drives down and crashes into a tree. Because I've had friends that I know personally that had an epileptic seizure. Yeah. They have this seizure. I don't mean to say stroking out, but they have a seizure and then they go off the road and they hit a tree. Right?
And it happens in the craziest times and places. And I'll tell you a story just to back off of that. So we were coming back. I don't mean to laugh when I say this either. Coming back from Vegas from SHOT Show, walking in line, and this was God looking down on this guy's life. So I'm walking in, about to get on the plane. All of a sudden, 3 guys behind me, big dude too. Dude, he was like 2 times your size, heavier set guy. Wow. Something told me to turn around. As I'm turning around, this guy's going timber. Boom, right off the edge of where that metal strip is on the little walkway. Bangs his head off of that, and he's white.
Oh, shit. So he hit his head. Okay.
Oh, he hit his head, and he was white. At this point, anybody has seen this before, you could say this guy either had a stroke or a heart attack right now because he's like, something bad happened to him, and he's
got
done
no blood flow going there.
No blood flow, so on and so forth. So I turn around, and then obviously you're going to get the people that completely start chaos. Is one thing that I hate, but again, being what we did before, we understand, like, slow it down, see what the hell's going on around you. People are screaming, instead of somebody going over there and seeing what's going on, everybody's like running around in circles like maniacs. Fortunately, it was the craziest thing. I'm standing here, the lady behind me is a nurse, the guy in front of me was a medic I don't know if he was in the Marines or Army, he's a medic in the Marines, so on and so forth, and we all are right there. So I'm like, all right. So I turn around. He announced what he is. She announced what she is. I was like, all right, let's go to work here. Pull the guy out. Flight attendants, by the way, need to get trained up because they have no clue of half of the stuff they have access to.
Yeah.
They know to ask, is there a doctor on board?
Yes, exactly. And I'm looking at him like, aren't you guys trained on this stuff? Like,
No.
get the AED machine. Somebody make a phone call. Get the oxygen out here. Like, you guys should have this down.
And you got to give these. And see, here's something too. In a situation like that, you have to be so clear and direct.
Right.
You dial 911. You get the AED because what people do is
everybody's thrown, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So the one flight attendant's out. At this point, the nurse is like, I'll start CPR. Cool. Take control of that. No need to fight about anything. Get it up. Get me the shears. Let's cut him off. All right, let's move him off of the metal. Thank God people are thinking because now they're hooking up the AED machine, and they're about to hit him. So we're looking at it like, dude, you hit him. We're all
getting fried.
And thank God somebody saw that and like pull him off of there and, you know, get to work on that. So CPR is going, everything like that. So they bring the oxygen. All right, let's get the oxygen on him. How do you hook it up?
Oh my God.
And I'm looking at the flight attendant like, you don't know how to do this? And first of all, it's pretty, I call it cop-proof, dummy-proof. One tube could only fit on that. And it's literally color-coded. But this just shows when people get into those frantic scenarios, all the basic motor skills, the most simple things go out the door.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so, and I mean, long story short, this guy ended up having a heart attack. I mean, thank God that we were all standing there at that same time. He couldn't have gotten any sort of treatment any faster than what he did. He was alive when we left. I don't know what happened after that, but it's just like, my point is that it happens in the craziest places. We're about to get on a plane from Vegas at the SHOT Show. That's your winding down time.
Yeah.
You're
like
right.
what could possibly go wrong now?
Anytime, dude.
This guy dying behind you. How about that?
How lucky was that guy to go down at that moment at SHOT Show?
Right,
Where it's
exactly.
typically a bunch. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's all sorts of FUDs and everybody else at SHOT Show too, but there's also a lot of trained, mildly, intermediately, highly trained individuals walking around at all times.
Yes.
You know, and it's like, dude, I mean, if you're going to go down, that's a good place to go down. I mean,
It's a good, and that's what was my thought process, and that's what I ended up telling the flight attendant. I was like, he couldn't have went down to any better place than this besides sitting in a hospital.
I mean, he got 3 responders right there.
You know, I mean,
that knew what they were doing,
So-
thank God, because if it was left up to the flight attendants, this dude probably would have been, again, he would have been
like
an
you said,
obituary.
is there a doctor on board?
Yeah.
That's
Don't
it.
you guys have basic training?
Call
the
doctor. It kind of reminds me when I was an unarmed cop downtown Charlotte. It's like I carried quarters in my pocket in case I needed to call the real police. You know what I mean? Just kidding. I didn't have there's no pay phones around. I had my cell phone.
Dude,
But
the CPR is so important.
Yep.
Like, what are you gonna do if you are having a heart attack? How are you gonna save yourself? So you need to learn CPR.
that's good too. Like, what happens if it happens to you?
No, that's what Michael Scott from Office said.
But it's true though.
But
It's true.
You need to think, what are you gonna do when you're alone and you're having a heart attack? You need
guess
to
I'll
learn how
die.
to do CPR.
Oh well, okay. Well, that part's kind of funny. But knowing how to do the Heimlich on yourself. You know, that's something I don't think some people think about is they immediately do this number and then it's panic. And it's like, okay, all right, hold on. You got to start thinking. Yeah. And then it's like, all right, find yourself a table and start, you know, you got to get that line up and everything and give yourself the Heimlich. You know, you got to do that. What do we call it? Turkish thrust?
Turkish thrust, yes.
That's a different kind of move.
That's when Kai was trying to line up a table.
Yeah. Be careful if you're on the other end of that. Stop explaining. Don't explain anymore.
We're done.
Don't explain anymore.
We're done. Just let the comment section do what they will, all right?
Another factor with CPR too is a lot of people don't know that you got to break people up.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're gonna
hurt them.
You're gonna hurt
Dude,
them.
how
You're gonna
weird is
break
that?
ribs. And if you've never done that, that first break is somebody's ribs.
It's
You're
a
like,
weird.
whoa,
It's a weird feeling.
Oh, it's a weird
It's
feeling.
like-
That's why the dummies they cave in the way they do.
Yeah.
You know, like
They
on
click.
the CPR dummies, they do that click.
Yeah, it's different when that whole diaphragm in the rib cage comes caving in.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh shoot, did I just kill that person the first time I did it? I was like, I think I just killed him.
It's one injury to save another. You know, you're all right.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's where you hope.
Staying alive. Staying alive.
Another office reference there.
It is.
But that's when that you hope, your fingers crossed and pray that those Good Samaritan laws come into play, so that way they don't sue you for breaking the ribs. You know, like, hey, thanks for saving my life. You owe me, $1 million now.
I mean, that's a very good point. What Aaron brought up, that it is true that you do break their ribs because you really do have to press that much. So anybody who is listening, and God forbid you're in a situation like this, You can't just like in the movies we see, because in the movies they're actors, right? They just do like little bunny jackrabbit thing.
Nah,
whatever.
dude, it's a workout.
Yep.
You need to go
after a couple
deep.
minutes. You're gonna want to tap out.
That's
and
why
let
they
somebody
say.
else
And that's why they rotate.
Rotate.
You're 100% gonna want to. All right, somebody else needs to get in here and do this.
Yeah.
You
Now
know?
here's another scary one too, and the one that we've been seeing a lot of on social media: babies.
Oh yeah.
Knowing how to give proper
Yep.
CPR.
CPR to
And-
count. It's
and
not
how
a
to-
32
and-
count.
exactly.
Doing all that. 15.
Yeah,
to
you
1.
cut it in half.
There you go.
And so it's like, dude, and so that's another one
Yeah.
that I've seen that's kind of like tragic, you know, and especially like babies that pass out because they're left in a car, in a hot car or something, you know. Yeah. And dude, that stuff. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I
That
don't
stuff's
like
rough.
Scariest one that I've seen is I think it was somewhere in California. The child actually fell into the pool.
Yes, I saw that video.
And you have to, like, this cop just, LAPD officer came, ran in. The lady didn't, the baby, she couldn't even get it out. The guy just grabbed the child, turned the child around. Did
Gives
exactly-
the hits.
And next, you know, you just, once you hear that crying, man.
Oh,
it's
dude,
like, oh
the
my God.
relief. I mean, my hands are sweaty thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, and then you hear that cry, and oh
I
my God.
hate the kid aspect, man. I'm sorry. I'll watch somebody blow their head off.
Yeah.
I'll
Oh, yeah.
patch you back up. But kids, that's the one thing that I'm just like, I pray to God I don't have to ever deal with that. That'll fuck me up. Excuse me, my French, but that will mess me up bad.
Dude, I mean, unfortunately,
Yeah.
we have seen it. I mean,
I've seen it, but personally, for me, thank God, I've never had to be the one to go hands on on it, which has saved me a whole lot of head trauma.
I never did a CPR on a kid,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, and I'm not a father, so I'm pretty sure if that ever happens, like when I become a father, I probably will feel a lot more.
Yeah, you'll relate
intensely.
to it in a whole different manner.
But I've seen, unfortunately, and God, like on duty, I've seen, moms do lay on their kids and die. Like the kids die. That happens so many times. People don't understand. Like you have a little newborn, you sleep together, and then there's that. And I've seen abused kids and stuff like that. But when I was a CSI, we would just get called to those death investigations because that's a big scene. And then I go there and the kid is there. Like I can't. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, that is rough. So, oh man, well that's a dark topic.
Let's pick it up a little bit.
But
Well, all right.
But, I
Let's
mean,
talk about something completely different.
oh, I was gonna say some of the images coming out of Palestine and Gaza and
related to
everything
that.
else right now. I mean, granted, I know there's a lot of AI and a lot of this. What is Mr. Guns and Gear calling it? 5th gen warfare. You know, where it's like, dude, what is true? You know what I mean? I mean, dude, how many fucking videos am I gonna see of that one video game, Arma 3, and people trying to pass it off as real life?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, come on, guys, y'all can't recognize some of this stuff. Like, that's obviously not real, but to the untrained eye, it looks like, oh my God, can you believe this is the type of technology that they have over there? They got laser beams shooting rockets out of the sky, and you're like, that's Arma.
No, there are a lot of people dying there, man. It's so sad. Like what happened on October 7th, Hamas did is just absolutely barbaric, horrible. 1,400 Israelis just got murdered, and a bunch of them got kidnapped, and that is definitely terrible. And honestly, I gotta say this: what's happening in Palestine right now, and all those kids dying every day with the bombings.
I hate that the videos. Like I'm good for watching videos, but they have so many videos of these kids. I can't watch half the stuff.
Yeah.
Like I can
gotta
watch them
stop.
blowing these guys up all day, but they got to stop putting the videos of the kids. And
Well, that's because they know.
propaganda.
and I know
That's the
and that's
reaction.
what I was about to get
That
to. It's
they know.
100% propaganda. Like we were talking
both
about
sides.
on that side, it's the rage, man.
Yeah.
It's
Like when they said,
creating-
Israelis blew up the hospital.
Yeah.
No, that was your rocket.
Your
that
failed
turned.
rocket.
Failed rocket.
the biggest thing with this is creating, it's putting a divide. That's all it is.
That's what
It's
they want.
a freaking
dude.
divide.
It's
It's not about Israel or Palestine, black, white, Spanish. It's not about that, man. It's a creating divide because united, those guys could handle business all day. But you create that divide, let them fight it out, they'll kill each other, you know, and weaken each other.
I don't mean to be a deep conspiracy theorist guy, but I will say this. They came by land, air, and by sea.
How did Mossad let that happen? Right? Is that what you're saying?
Dude,
Like
the intelligence
There are a lot of
failure
questions.
is catastrophic.
There's a lot of questions.
That's a lot of questions.
And they're saying that there was a cyber attack prior, hours prior to this invasion.
Correct.
And I'm like, really? Really?
By the way, those paragliders were flying in tight formation.
Yeah.
Dude, like, okay.
I know this for a fact.
Yeah.
You cannot go to Israel and fly your drone more than 50 meters in the sky before it gets shut down.
Yeah.
Okay? So
How did that happen?
how did you guys didn't see?
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
agree
make
with
any
you.
sense.
We all have
Doesn't make any
questions.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Questions.
all have questions, but here's a question. This is actually not a question. This is a statement. I think the United States right now, our winning move were to sit back and not get the hell involved. And I personally believe right now we need to be focusing on our efforts over here to try to prevent the next one.
It's already here.
Oh,
It's
exactly.
hard to tell
dude.
everybody it's already here, and like you say, staying vigilant. It's in your backyard right now, and it's waiting to happen.
The military readiness that we have right now is terrible. Dude, I mean, we are in a situation, and this is no news to anybody. We are so vulnerable right now.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like we could probably do a part 2 to this. I mean,
Yeah.
we're
Dude,
all
I
going to
got
catch
so much
up.
stuff to
I
say.
have things to say. Some things I don't know if I want to say.
Yeah,
but
I get it. We can all talk offline, you know. But at this point, I don't know about y'all, but I'm in a desperate need for a range trip.
oh yeah,
Dude.
100%.
I mean, think about this though. Like U.S., I agree. You know, we have our own problems, southern border and all that stuff. And Israel is right now trying to, like, there's some conflict with Hezbollah up in northern Israel, which is Lebanon.
Yep.
And Hezbollah is about 100 times stronger than Hamas. Anybody doesn't know. And Iran completely backs, obviously, Hamas and Hezbollah. So if Israel gets in a full-blown conflict with Hezbollah, they're going to be spread so thin.
It's the multi-front war. They're gonna be fighting all over the
Exactly.
place.
And U.S. is going to, because Israel is going to get really, is going to have a hard time, right? And U.S. is going to supply more, like what's happening in Ukraine. So U.S. gets, that's why I said sleepwalking, if you notice. U.S. is going to get dragged into it more, and it's not going to end. This is going to be a never-ending thing, right? So
it hasn't ended.
No,
How many?
how many thousands of years?
Exactly. So, and so many people are just going to die. Is it true that Israel can just kill hundreds of thousands of Palestinians or whoever it is? Of course. But does that mean you're going to be safe or this is going to be over? No, you're just going to radicalize more and more people.
Exactly.
And that's
all
exactly
it's
what we
doing.
learned in Afghanistan.
Yep. That's
You know,
what
and
it's
that's
doing.
and this is the argument of why it doesn't take F-15s to win a war.
That's right.
It takes motherfuckers in flip-flops and AKs. Anyway.
Yeah, dude, ideology, man. Remember that? There's a video, if you haven't seen it, these two Hamas terrorists on October 7th just going door to door and just shooting at everybody, right?
Or how about the Porta-Johns? They just
Exactly.
just
shooting indiscriminately
Porta-Johns.
into the Porta-Johns.
So they're walking through this courtyard or backyard, whatever, from one house to another house. One of the terrorists see a civilian Israeli. He's like, he stops. He kind of like starts flanking a little bit.
Oh, yeah,
And
Nick
this
Boots.
civilian,
Yeah.
I think it was an AR-15. It could be any other round. I don't know, but
Puts
it was a
his ass down.
wrong gun, right? Boom, pops him, and this terrorist takes a bad shot. He falls down, and the first thing he says, he's like, "Ugh," obviously he makes that thing, and he starts saying that little Muslim prayer. And this doesn't apply to all Muslims because those guys are terrorists. Not all Muslims are terrorists. He does that little prayer and dies.
Yeah.
Which means, like, if you say that prayer before you die, you go to heaven.
Yeah.
So that's an ideology. That guy was there. He's ready to die. Like, he doesn't care.
It's hard to defeat guys like
How do
that,
you
man.
win that guy?
It's hard to beat
over
guys
that
like
guy.
that.
You know what? This goes back to what we were talking about with Kaya. If one movie that to me represents the current times of right now, the movie The Kingdom.
I watched
Yes.
that.
I
You told
haven't
me I
seen
went
it.
home. I
The
watched that
Kingdom's
movie.
good.
I haven't
Jamie
seen it.
Foxx.
It's good?
Yep, it's real good.
Very good.
So good.
Yes.
I know what I'm doing tonight. All right.
Watch
Very
that.
good.
You'll watch
And
that 100 times.
If you pay attention to the last, I guess, 2 minutes
Yeah.
of when Jason
Shows
Bateman's
everything.
character asks, well, what did he whisper to you
Oh,
in the beginning to stop you from crying?
Right.
And that'll give you
We don't want to spoil it, but
All right.
that
Yeah.
end
Yeah.
of it,
Jessica
Yeah.
Biel.
yeah.
Okay.
because both sides at all times in every war truly believe they're right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and they want to eradicate the other side. So take that for what you will.
And I think too, another thing is everything is turned into bad, which again creates that rage and divide.
Correct.
Like, you don't hear the good stories of things.
Yeah.
Like you said, that story where somebody actually fought back and beat one of the guys.
Yeah.
That gives people hope. Gives
Yeah.
them that, all right, let's push through this. Let's figure out how we work together. Even if it comes down to a point, all right, now let's work together to get this done. They don't tell us stories about, these two parents died. I heard a story when I was over in San Diego last week that there was a mother and a father in, was it called the kibbutz, the little city?
Kibbutz.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
They had two kids, and then they have their little bomb shelter.
Yeah.
Hamas came in. Obviously, I think it was like 12 or 15 guys. Don't quote me on this number. Don't quote me on the full story. This is just a story I heard. Two parents were ex-IDF, so they were armed. They had
I heard that story.
You heard the story?
Yeah.
They had their two kids. They put the two kids in a bomb shelter because they knew they were about to. It was their
work.
last fight
Yeah.
that they were going to. They called. I think it was their uncle or one of their family members who was about a mile away. By the time they got that call, a mile away drive, what does that take you? A couple minutes to get down there?
I mean, that depends on if you're in a
on where
situation
you're
to
at.
leave.
Depending on where you're at. It took them a
Yeah.
couple minutes to get there. In that time period, these two parents took on, I think it was 12 to 15 Hamas.
Yeah.
When they got there, the uncle or the family members, they said they were like, holy shit. There was just Hamas all over the place. They were walking over bodies. So they're following the bodies. They obviously are going to see where the parents and the kids are. They walk into the house, and they see the mother and the father dead. Obviously, they took several gunshot wounds through this whole fight, but they were able to take out fucking 12 to 15 of these guys. And then obviously your next thought is, where are the fucking kids?
Right.
Kids were alive in the friggin', the parents were literally died right in front of the door to shelter and were putting down those rounds. The last rounds they put down were those to save those kids. Like, those
What
are
a
the
way to
stories
go.
you need to hear.
What a way to go,
You know,
yeah.
like, and that's the thing about it. If everybody had that mindset, fight the evil off, man. Like, bad guys don't want that violence. Like, those two people were able to take out. Imagine if we had everybody unite like that and stood there and took that fight to the proper individuals. It's not a Palestinian or Israeli thing. Took it to the people that are terrorists, the bad people in this world.
Yeah.
And I see an interview here in the United States asking moms, would you kill for your kid?
I saw that.
And they're, no, I don't think I would.
What?
You're
I
crazy.
promise they would.
This is
crazy.
Dude.
They
I'll be
would
honest.
have to.
In today's society, when again I've already talked about where I have to think if I go and try to save this guy, is his family going to sue me if he dies? In today's society, I guarantee you right now, when you look on the fucking TV screen, when you watch the news and everything else, there are mothers, there are fathers that would not be willing to lay down their life, much less take another life for the defense of their children.
I agree with
and
you,
this is the society. This is
Cowards.
how weak we have become.
And that's a natural instinct from a mother. Majority of mothers have that natural instinct without even thinking about it. They'll
Bro,
do it.
I mean, it enrages me. All right, how much longer we got? Ryan, when do we need to start wrapping this up? All right, because this is a topic that it gets me heated up, and I think ultimately we've had a really good conversation so far, and we do have some other stuff we got to get to. And we are going to the range today.
That's right.
Thank God.
Yep.
I need some group therapy. You know what I'm saying? And but we have had a really good conversation. And we want to hear from you guys down in the comment section. Do you think, because this country is already on the trajectory of its downfall, and it has been for quite some time, right? And just as a society alone, we are so weak. We have become so dependent on government, on somebody else to ultimately take care of us, that it has crippled us. And the government knows that, and they want to keep trying to strip this right, strip that right. You don't need a weapon of war on the street. We'll take care of you.
Yeah,
And this is the world we live in.
Yeah,
Let me ask you about those two parents then. I bet you that they didn't have pistols with 50 rounds.
Oh, that wasn't pistols with 50
Boom.
rounds.
Yeah.
I
Boom.
can promise
There you
you it
go.
wasn't pistols. Taking out that many and doing what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet it was one of those damned weapons of war, wasn't it?
One of those crazy weapons of war.
Yeah. How about that?
AR-15s that shoot down planes and do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all need to wake up real quick and realize evil exists. And if you're not taking the proper steps to defend against this evil, you gotta the best way to combat evil when it comes knocking like that is to meet it with such overwhelming surprise and violence of action that it can't stand the fight. And if you're not thinking about that, you're gonna die. So anyway,
Stay ready.
stay ready. Obviously, this conversation got me heated up a little bit. If you want to see more spiciness, make sure you're tuning in on our live streams.
Oh, that's right. Tonight, I got mine. Wednesday nights at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Eastern.
Yeah.
I'm going to go deep on this topic
We'll have
tonight.
to join
Dude,
you on that
I'll
one.
probably tune in.
Maybe
will?
I'll
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
join you on that.
All right,
Yeah.
good.
Open it up a
There-
little bit.
There we
I'm
go.
going to have Aaron on tonight.
Yeah,
I
put that.
I suppressed my rage, but we'll talk
Let's
a
do
little
it.
bit.
Put that on.
Oh,
put
dude,
that on
it's
social.
live stream, and it's my show.
Yeah, you got my scotch, right?
I do.
All right.
Might be
Come
two
on
of us
over.
there.
Come
All
on
right.
over, guys.
Anyway, let's head on over to the range, guys. We'll see you down in the comment section. God bless him. We'll see you next time at the CF Podcast.